It's not just mine, his or her house. This is our house.
Hello, my name is Tyrone Lowe. I'm your host. The show is called The Legends, and I want to thank everybody all over the world that watches my show and show me love, subscribes to me, and all the things you do for me. And without you guys, there wouldn't be no Legends. And the House of the Legends, she's straight from Philly. She has several books out, but we're going to actually concentrate on a book that she has. It's called From the Struggles to the Stage. In the House of the Legends, I bring you Dr. Tiffany R. Harris. Welcome to the Legends.
Thank you so much, Tyrone. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
You know, a little bit before we start, I just happened to just stumble across your book. And for some strange reason, I picked it up. I started reading it, and I was like, wow, I got to get her on my show.
Wow.
you know, the book is very inspiring.
Thank you.
And even though that you went through some transitions in your life with your struggles and stuff, sometimes you have to look at it from a man's point of view as well, because we go through things as well.
Exactly.
So based from Philadelphia, let's talk about your childhood. How was it growing up as a child?
Wow. So what most people don't know is that I am one of 9 children.
Okay.
So I'm number 6 in line.
All right.
All of us were in the house together,
Right.
mother and father, and it was a lot. So this was back when we didn't have a 2-way or a 3-way, we had a 1-way.
Right,
So
okay.
we had to share the phone, we had to share the bathroom, we had to
Right.
share the food. So it was a lot going on,
Okay.
and so, but I think that it taught me a lot, having a bunch of siblings in the household, so I'm really grateful for that. And so both parents work. My father worked for SEPTA, God rest his soul. My mother was a cosmetologist.
Okay.
And so it's always so fascinating just to see how we all grew up and have different personalities. Some of us are like our father. Some of us are like our mother.
Right.
Yeah, but we had a great childhood.
That's
Yeah.
great. As for you, growing up with all those siblings, did you actually acquire a vision for yourself?
I wanted to be a teacher.
Really?
Yes, really. Having all those siblings, I would play school on the weekends, and I would give them homework assignments. I would line them up at the table, especially the ones who are younger than me. So
Right.
my vision was always to be a teacher. I always knew that I wanted to do a lot of missions work. So I can remember being younger, and I would see the children in Africa and in Indonesia and things like
Wow,
that. And I
okay.
would say, how the numbers would flash at the bottom of the screen and
Right.
say to donate, call here. But I would say, Mom, I don't want to do that because I'm not sure if they will actually get it. I want to actually touch these places
Right.
and be on the grounds and walk and serve and feed and build schools. So
Okay.
that's what I saw for myself when I was younger.
And that's a source of spirituality. Everybody doesn't have that heart to actually go out there and help people because the way that the world is integratedly, it has a lot of integration going on where everybody's so selfish right now.
Right.
But with your heart, I hope a lot of people can actually go out there and do and feel the things you were feeling at the time.
Yeah.
So from there, you actually said to yourself one day, I'm going to write a book.
I didn't say that one day.
You didn't say
I
that?
didn't, and that's the ironic
Okay.
part. My goal was never to be an author, Tyrone.
All right.
And you know how it's things that other people can see in you that you can't see.
Right.
So it was actually my uncle. His name is Gregory Williams.
Okay.
He is a serial entrepreneur, a serial author, and a award-winning speaker.
Okay.
And he is the one that said, because I started public speaking and traveling the world speaking before I wrote a book.
Oh, really?
Really? And he used to say, sweetheart, you ever think about writing a book? And I was
Okay.
me? Why would I do that? No, I don't want to write a book. And he said, your message is powerful when
Right.
you're on the stage, but people want to be able to take you home with them.
Right.
And I said, what do you mean by that? He was like, your book. You need to have something tangible so that they can take you home. And so while they hear you speak in their own leisure, they have a book to read about
Right,
what you've
right.
gone through that has strategies and tools in it for them to overcome. So that's how I ended up writing a book. And what my uncle did is he signed me up for this accelerated book writing course. And at the end of it, the goal was to write an ebook. So I didn't write an ebook. And my uncle paid for it, and I felt bad, like, wow, I let him down. I didn't write this ebook.
Right, right.
However, in retrospect, that seed was already planted. And so I don't know if you know, when there's something that God has called you to do that you don't even know He
Right.
wants you to do,
That's true.
He's not going to let you get away from it.
That's right.
So I would have dreams about writing a book, and I'm like, where are these dreams coming from? This is not what I want to do.
Okay.
But that seed was already planted. So I just started to journal and write and write and write. And I said, okay, God. So although it didn't happen when my uncle put me into that accelerated course,
Right.
I already now had an understanding of the process of writing a book. So I started to write, and I said, well, what am I going to call it?
Okay.
And God said in his quiet, still voice, what I have done is taking you from the struggle to the stage. And I was like, that's it.
Okay.
And that became the title of my book. And so it's from the struggle to the stage, and it's 5 life-saving principles that will shift the trajectory of your life.
Right.
And that's based off of my struggle and those 5 things that helped me overcome.
So before you actually started writing, you were actually going out and you were actually speaking.
Yes.
So what were you actually speaking about?
Yeah, great question. So I would speak on topics related to mindset, faith, women empowerment. And then I started speaking in schools. And I was speaking in schools about entrepreneurship,
Right.
confidence, self-worth, things of that nature.
Okay. So that would that be also in a source of spirituality in the sense of faith and things of that nature?
Absolutely, absolutely. And in one of my chapters in the book, From the Struggle to the Stage, I talk about faith because that is one of the 5 things that helped me overcome and get through what I was going through. So faith is absolutely critical. My mother, she raised us in the church. Some of you asked about my upbringing. Every Sunday, she was dragging us to church. So I've been in the church since I was a baby, literally. And so while the church never left me, I left the church.
Right.
But I always knew where that foundation came from, and I always knew what my source was that would help me overcome, and it was my faith. So when I went back to that, yes, it actually got me out of a dark place.
Right.
So that's why I always talk about it.
Your dark place, define that and tell the viewers about that because I think that excelled you to be actually the person that you are today.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, wow. To see how things come full circle and to have my daughter here in the studio,
Right.
because she was in that dark place with me.
Okay.
But at that age, it's been about 10 years now, I don't even think she realized what I was going through.
Right.
And so I describe it as unfamiliar, simultaneous lack. Because prior to that, I was on top of my bills, I had a great job, I had several sources of income.
Right.
And then all at the same time, I was demoted from my job. So I literally went from, and the demotion came with being a fee-for-service therapist, which meant that I was only getting paid if my client showed up for their therapy sessions.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so I literally went from multiple streams of income to one income to no income at all. And as a result of all that, I didn't have any money to buy my daughter food. Her name is London. My truck was repossessed. My home was on the verge of foreclosure. I didn't have any heat in my home.
Wow.
Yeah, so London and I, although we lived in a 1,196 square foot home, she and I were confined to the smallest room of the house.
Wow.
That was
Okay.
only 110 square feet. And so I had a mental health breakdown, Tyrone.
Okay.
I really did because
Right.
it was unfamiliar. I wasn't used to that. And because I was the one who people would call on for support or for help, now here it was, I'm the helper and I'm the helpee.
Right.
I can't call people and ask anybody for help. I was embarrassed and I was ashamed.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was, I gave up mentally. I gave up. I would cry so long that my eyes were swollen and puffy from the tears.
Right.
The house was so cold, like my fingertips were literally frozen.
Wow.
And you know how we swipe our cell phone
Yes.
screen? I couldn't do it. My fingertips were so frozen. I could hardly see the numbers on the screen. And my teeth and London's teeth. And it's like, Mom, what are we going to? It was horrible.
Okay.
We walked around the house with scarves and hats on, and when you did, it was like a hawk came out your mouth, like this thick white cloud. So it was it was devastating. You know, and my mindset was I give up, and I questioned God. And although we talked about my faith,
Right.
in that moment during those times, I questioned God. Like, how did I get here? I'm not supposed to be here.
Right.
Yeah,
Well, somebody told me that you're not supposed to question God.
and I did. Yeah, I did.
Do you feel at this point that you were being put through tests, in a sense?
Oh, absolutely.
Because after you went through what you went through as far as the transition, you look at the outcome of it and where you're at right now. So when you look at what you went through before to compare to now, what are you saying to yourself?
You know, I realized that, and I tell people, God literally had to break me down
Right, okay.
so that I had no other choice but to seek Him so that He can build me back up. I said, oh, I get it now. I get it. All those long nights and the tears, I get it now. You know, sitting outside at a flea market in the wintertime just to sell nothing, I get it now. You know, the month of November is very sentimental to me because
okay.
during that time, my daughter and I had her, and she probably doesn't remember this, I had her at a Thanksgiving feeding that was for the community
Okay.
because I couldn't afford to buy food. So literally for Thanksgiving, we're sitting at a table with strangers,
Okay.
right? And I remember they were giving out free coats. And I would say, look, London, that coat right there, go get in line before anybody else. You should get that pink one that has the
Right.
blue stripes and the red stripes on it. You know, we're at the table with these strangers, like how you sit with your family at Thanksgiving and say, oh, Tyrone, pass the rolls.
Right,
I'm looking
right.
at a stranger. Oh, pass that cornbread. Let me
Right,
get something.
right.
You know, but I realized that what I was going through, it wasn't for me. It was for me to be that beacon of light and hope for other individuals.
Right.
And show them when you do these 5 things that's in my book, that's going to get you on the other side. That's going to contribute to your resilience. That's going to contribute to your bounce back. That's going to contribute to your success.
You know, I from what I'm hearing is sometimes God, like I said, I talk about tests a lot because I'm tested every day, you know, and you were actually used as a vessel just to go through that experience in a sense.
Absolutely.
You know, because sometimes we feel like when we go through different failures in our lives that we forsake Him, which is not necessarily true, because I guess He realized that everybody's not built to go through the struggles.
Right.
You know, what do you feel about that?
You know, and I do agree with that because
Okay.
if we look, right, and so I've been in the mental health field for 20 years.
Okay.
And and outside of the mental health field, I know individuals who've committed suicide. I know individuals who turned to drinking and drugs and
Right.
now are addicted because they were not able to cope with the struggles,
Right.
with those tests. You know, there's a quote or a saying by Steve Harvey. I once heard him said, in life, 90% of us, not even 90%, but we will all go through things.
Right.
Everybody's going to face adversity and challenges. But it's how we deal with it that's going to make the difference.
Okay.
And some people are not able to deal with it. And so I do agree, right? Some people, they don't pass the test, unfortunately.
Okay.
You know, and they're not able to survive.
What would you say your inner feelings were to the point of what you were going through, and how did you develop a sense of inner strength? Because we go through things, but we forget about our inner strength, things to encourage us, things to give us the faith, things of that nature.
Yeah. My inner feeling, I felt like a failure.
Okay.
I felt like a failure. I felt like I was letting my daughter down. And not only did I feel like a failure, I felt like I was setting my daughter up for failure
Okay.
because I wasn't even trying. I didn't even ask for help. It was, oh, you want the truck? Well, they took the truck, keep it.
Right.
You know, you want the house? Take it. I don't have any money to buy my daughter food? No problem. I'll go to every free food bank. I was literally, Tyrone, I was taking water jugs, the empty water jugs that people fill out with change.
Right.
I was taking that to save a lot to the supermarket just so I can get enough money to buy London spaghetti sauce, spaghetti noodles, and ground turkey to make her a meal, right? I felt lost.
Wow.
I felt broken. But then I had to realize that inner strength, I had to tap back into that source, my faith. And then I had to remember, I used to be a licensed life insurance agent.
Okay.
And my coach back then, he said, he always used to talk about your why. And he used to say, when you identify your why should make you cry. And back then, my strength, is what got me to a place where I excelled in that company as a licensed life insurance agent. So I had to tap back into that. And I had to remember my why, which is my daughter.
Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a little break, and we'll be right back. Stay tuned with Dr. Tiffany.
It's not just mine, his or her house. This is our house.
We got some fun people in the house tonight.
This is our house.
Last week, Brandon met a girl on a dating app. One day after work, he finally found the courage to ask her out. No answer. He started to panic. Was he being too pushy? Maybe it was too
Hey, sorry I didn't respond. I was driving. I would love to go on a date. How does tonight sound?
Brandon tried to play it cool, but inside he knew. A girl so smart, so responsible, she must be a keeper.
It's not just mine, his or her house. This is our house.
My assignment, my calling is to inspire, uplift.
You have to make sure your people are partying.
All I want to do is just bring joy to the dance floor and watch people dance.
Tino. And we're back. In the House of the Legends, we have Dr. Tiffany R. Harris. Now, we're going to into the phase of your transition to where you are today, and how God has actually blessed you. Tell the viewers about that.
Oh, wow. Yes, that was a marvelous transition.
Okay.
And so when I said my mindset was I give up, and then it went to giving up is not an option. And how that transition happened was what I just talked about before we went to break.
Right.
The first thing that I did was I identified my why. I looked at London, right? And as bad as I wanted to give up and throw in the towel, and I said before break, I realized that I was setting her up for failure.
Right.
And so when I looked at her, I saw her legacy. I saw her future. I saw my bloodline. I said, oh no, I got to get back up and fight.
Right,
So
right.
I identified my why. That was the first thing. The second thing that I did was I shifted my mindset. And that's why I'm so big on mindset and coaching. So I'm a
Right.
speaking coach and a mindset coach, right? And so what I had to do was rewrite my own narratives
Okay.
about the beliefs that I had about myself and about my strengths.
Right.
And I had to let go of those limiting beliefs.
Okay.
The third thing that I did was I reactivated my faith. And so, like I told you, I was raised in the church, but somewhere along the way, Dr. Harris did her own thing, and I forgot about how powerful faith is.
Right.
And the word says, all we need is faith the size of a mustard seed. And I don't know if anybody's ever just pricked their finger with a pen, and that little dot that shows up, that's how small a mustard seed is. And that's all I needed to help me get from crawling in faith to running in faith to shouting in faith, right? And so the fourth thing that I did was I identified a support system. You talked about not having to do things alone. And I had to realize that it's okay to not be okay.
Right.
I identified a support system. And I started to reach out and ask for help, which is a fifth thing. Ask for help. So the first person I called was my mother and let her know what was going on and said, Mom, I need your help. And so those are the 5 things that allowed me to shift and pivot. And then from there, I realized that what I went through, like I said earlier, was to be that beacon of light and hope for other women.
Right.
And so from there, I started a women's community back in 2016, 2017, right in the living room of my home.
Okay. You know, I'm curious.
Yes.
Your thought is not your own. What do you mean by that? Because that sort of like captured me, you know, looking back at my past to my present and my thoughts. And I'm looking at the capacity of how powerful that statement really is. Because our mindset has a tendency of dwelling away from the positive, and we seem to be drawn more into the negative. Can you say something about that?
Yes, absolutely. And it can happen. It's very common, like even still today, just
Right.
because I'm where I am and I speak and travel the world and I coach individuals with speaking and mindset and all these, I have books. That stinking thinking is what we call it, has a tendency to creep in. But I'm very big on positive affirmations. I'm very big on positive affirmations. And as soon as that negative thought tries to creep in,
Right.
I'm able to combat it just like that with something else, right? I'm very big on implementing the word to combat it and come back right like that, just like that. And that's what it's going to take is a constant, reminder of who you are and a constant filling yourself with positive affirmations, surrounding yourself with positive people who are going to help build you up.
Traveling the world, what have they actually given you as far as energy? Because you're giving a lot of energy. Tell the world, what are they giving back to you?
It's just a reminder of my calling and my purpose and why it was important for me to go from I give up to giving up is not an option. And for some people, yes, I identified my why, which was London, or which is London, so she's my why, that's big. But I also had to remember that my purpose is bigger.
Right.
And so when I travel the world, I'm seeing, the response that I'm getting and, oh my God, you saved my life. This helped me overcome depression and anxiety. I can relate to you, And so for me, it gives me that sense of not even just a desire, but an urgency
Right.
to keep going and keep pressing, because at the end of the day, it's not about Dr. Harris.
Right.
Yeah.
So did you ever thought that you'd be from the struggle to the stage?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
And it makes so much sense. And I tell
Right.
people, like I said earlier in life, we will all struggle with things.
Right.
And we will all get to a stage, and not just this stage in the studio on set, but to a stage where we're homeowners. I got to a stage where I went from my truck being repossessed.
Right.
I got it back in 15 days, Tyrone.
Okay.
I struggled with that.
Right.
But now I'm at a stage where the truck is paid off. I don't have a car note anymore,
Okay.
right? So I went from a stage and struggled where I couldn't feed my daughter to a stage where now not only I can feed her, but I support individuals' missions who are doing Thanksgiving feedings for other individuals.
Right.
And so that's what I mean from the struggle to the stage.
It's cool, man, because that's a powerful testimony, really. It doesn't have to be just what you went through. It could be what somebody else went through. It could be drug related, sexually related, domestically related, things of that nature. But you're giving him a sense of hope, and through God's grace, you're magnetizing them to the point where if she can do it, I can do it.
Absolutely.
But she leaned on God. You leaned on God. And that's what the missing puzzle was. You leaned on God.
Right.
We struggle every day, mindset, like we said. And we go through a lot of illusions. We go through a lot of craziness at times, and we allow people to actually, get into our minds, make us feel inferior and things of that nature. But what you're doing right now is that's like God sent. I feel like Superman when I read your book.
Wow.
Because I feel that where I came from, I can cry a little bit right now because a lot of people don't know where I came from and where I'm at right now. And that sense of hope is so genuine, to the point where I feel like I could just do anything, and you're a queen.
Thank you.
You're a queen.
Thank you.
How's your book doing right now? Well, you have several books.
I do. I have several books, and the book is doing great. And I tell people, I put up a post yesterday on my social media page about my interview today, which I was really excited about. And I told people this is a book that I self-published in 2022.
Okay.
And I think some people have the misconception of thinking that these books have to be Amazon bestsellers or New York Times bestsellers to do great things.
Right.
And so I just wanted to show people, this book is not an Amazon bestseller. It's not a New York Times bestseller. This is a self-help book that I self-published in 2022. And here it is in 2024. I get to be on the Legend Show with Tyrone Lowe. Come on. So do not discredit yourself.
Right.
And when you talk about, thoughts creeping in or what other people say,
Yeah.
I tell people we don't need anybody's permission to be
You don't.
great. None at all. So the book is doing great, from the struggle to the stage. I just released an anthology. I have a women's community, When Women
Okay.
Empower.
Right.
We just released an anthology called We Don't Look Like What We've Been Through.
Okay.
So it's a compilation of 8 authors, including myself, and we share, testaments about things that we've been through and how we've been able to be resilient. So they talk about domestic violence in there. They talk about grief.
Right.
They talk about abandonment. So it's an awesome book. But I look forward to coming back with the ladies to talk
Well,
about
she
that.
talked about the ladies coming through, which I'm definitely going to have here. I think that's going to be quite experience. That's going to be quite an experience listening to other women that's been through some things, and not only for the women, but for the guys too. We have egos. We don't like people to know what we go through. We have a tendency of want to suffer sometimes and stuff. But after a while, when we get our breakthrough, we're like, wow, why do we actually think like that?
Right.
So anybody that actually wants to get into the concept of what you're doing right now, even though it might not even be a struggle or anything like that, do you have any spoken words for them?
The biggest thing I would say is to get out of your own way, right? And stop running. And I did that for a long time. I ran.
Right.
Just the thought of speaking in front of people, like the way that my stomach would turn, the
Right.
way that my heart would feel like it was like boom, 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 boom.
Right,
And I was
right.
about to fall over, and I realized when we talked about God and leaning on God, He's in control.
Right, definitely.
Right? And so we definitely have to get out of our own way. We have so many hidden treasures locked up on the inside, but because of fear, what other people may
Right,
think,
right.
We self-sabotage. So I think we just have to get out of our own way and just allow our true light and true authentic self to shine.
What's the accommodation for you when you go out there and you're actually reaching out to a lot of people? How do you feel about it? What's the feeling like, to say that at least at this point and letting people know that they're not alone? How does that make you feel?
Yeah, it's very rewarding and gratifying. And I'm
Okay.
gonna tell you, just listening to you say it, this is the first time I heard you say it, you felt like Superman
Yes.
after reading my book. And it's like,
The
wow.
adrenaline is high right
It's like,
now.
wow. And just to know,
Definitely.
yes, men can relate, to
Most
it as
definitely.
well and have that positive reaction that you had. It's like, wow. And so again, it just makes me feel like I can do anything.
The sense of what I got out of this whole thing is that I don't care who you are. You're going to go through something. Where a lot of people like to keep it as a hidden agenda. Some people, it shows on some people, But then again, you got to break that ego down.
Yeah.
You have to break it down, and you break it down for you. You don't break it down because everybody says, well, hey, you look like this today, you look like that. Stay to yourself and be true to yourself. Am I right?
You're absolutely right. Yeah.
I want to actually thank you for being on my show. I want you to come again.
Definitely.
I want you to bring those ladies here.
Yes.
We're going to create a panel. And how they say, we're just going to give it away.
Yeah.
Okay?
Thank you so much.
And I want to thank everybody that actually tuned into this. And I hope that everybody got a good concept of it. And this has been another T-Lo Video production. You guys stay tuned for another episode. Thank you, Tiff.
You're welcome. Thank you, Tyrone. Appreciate it.
It's not just mine, his or her house. This is our house.